Okay. So on Friday, I got into a pretty serious car wreck. Then I went to Austin Friday night, and then I was in San Antonio on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I tried to fly out and couldn't get a flight back to school. And so on Monday, I did fly out, and I left at 2 p.m. to go to the airport, and I was supposed to catch my connecting flight at 6:30, and then it got delayed to 9:30. Then it got delayed to 12:30, and I got home at 2 a.m. on Tuesday. It is now Wednesday, and I am tired. But I made a dress last weekend before last. Time means nothing to me at the moment. But I made a dress. It took 5 hours and 52 minutes, which is the only time I've ever actually timed a dress. And I'm pretty excited about it. So here's how I made it. I started off by tracing onto my mannequin just straight on with pencil where I wanted the lines of the bodice to fall. The bodice consists of a middle panel and then two bust panels. And then I'm just going ahead and stretching the fabric that will be my lining over it and pinning in place, and then sketching on top of that with a pencil as well so that I can see my lines. The white fabric was see-through enough that I could just see my lines straight through it. Then I take it off the mannequin so that I can cut out my pieces with 1/2-inch seam allowance. We are 13 minutes in at this point. Next, I go ahead and use the exact same process except for the bust panels and make sure that I add darts to the bottom. I then go ahead and cut out the pieces. I do actually end up adding darts to the top as well, and I think you'll see that here in a minute. Once all the pieces are cut out, I go ahead and trace the middle panels around the waist onto the final fabric, since those have no gathering as a part of them. And are just straight cut out and sewn together, while the bust and skirt have a lot of gathering involved, so I measure those and cut those separately. All in all, there are 8 pieces. There are 3 middle panel pieces in the lining and the final fabric, and there are 2 bust pieces in the lining fabric. We are 44 minutes in. Then I go ahead and I stitch together my lining pieces. And we are 47 minutes in. Yay! Then I go ahead and press all my seams neat and tidy, because this will just make the process much easier later on than trying to deal with wrinkled, crumpled fabric. I make sure to go ahead and also get in real close to my darts, because that's going to be important when determining the bust shape, is you always want to make sure that your darts are properly ironed, because as you can see, there's gaping at the top. So I go ahead and I pin in and sew in another dart just so I can make sure it fits nicely. Then I'm going ahead and making some channels. These are just about a 3-inch strip wide piece of fabric that I am folding in on itself twice to create a channel. Then I'm going to pin, and I just am cutting as I go. There aren't actually exact measurements for this kind of thing, but I'm just pinning and cutting the channels into place. 2 at the bodice front, 2 at the sides, and then also 2 at the back. And you can see those side and back pieces in this shot here. The next step is going to be to sew those channel pieces down on either side, getting fairly close to the edge. That way it holds the boning in place firmly. For the boning, I want not all of it to be super stiff, but I want it to have some stiffness. So I'm inserting thin zip ties, and then in every other channel, I'm doing a thicker industrial zip tie as well, just to give it a little extra strength, because I prefer a stiffer bodice. And then it's math time. We're an hour and 4 minutes in, and for the math, I am going ahead and fulfilling all these measurements, and then every horizontal measurement is multiplied by 4 for gathering. So all the vertical measurements stay the same, horizontal measurements are different. Then, to get exactly straight strips, I am ripping the fabric instead of cutting it, because staying on grain like that will definitely help me with how long these pieces are. And for the angles, I just kind of eyeballed them. There wasn't exact stuff going on. Then I run gathering stitches all across the top and bottom lines of these bust pieces. Almost 2 hours in! And then I go ahead and I gather up all that fabric for the bust piece. 2 hours, 20 minutes in. Once it's gathered, I go ahead and pin the top onto, the top line of the bust piece onto the top line of the lining. And I go ahead and stitch that down into place, making sure to go very slowly and watch for pins because losing pins in gathering is a treacherous slope. I do the same to the bottom, though I'm not following the exact line. I'm pulling down and pinning as I go, and once again, very slowly and carefully making my way through so I don't bust a needle, and then trimming away the excess. Oh my gosh. Now we are almost 3 hours into this dress, and I'm going ahead and making some binding for the top edge of the bodice. This binding is just folded in towards the middle and then folded in half to create kind of a sandwich for the top of the bodice. And then I'm hand stitching that into place just because everything is getting so thick at this point that I know I will break a needle. This is the skirt. I just wanted to listen to the ripping noise for a while. But I am gathering that up, and I am using the already hemmed length of this bed sheet. Oh, by the way, I'm using a bed sheet. I'm using the already hemmed length of the bed sheet so I don't have to hem it, and I'm just gathering it up and stitching it directly onto the lining. I'm going to be using the middle panel pieces we cut out earlier just to cover up everything else, and that's what I'm doing here, pinning it into place all around the top of the bodice. Then I'll sew that, and then I will do the exact same to the bottom half of the bodice. And I'm hand sewing again because it's gotten so thick, and I want to make sure that I hide all of the chunky gathers that'll be underneath this. Then I am adding an extra panel in the back for buttons just because it fit exactly and would be great with a zipper, but I don't have a zipper, so buttons. And I'm going to cover up the raw edges with some of the leftover binding that I had. Oh my gosh. This is what that looks like all put together, and then I'm going to go through with a pencil and mark out where I want my buttons and buttonholes, and I have a machine with an automatic buttonhole setting, so that's what I used to put this together. This is what it looks like all finished and buttoned up. I also threw a hook and eye at the top just to make sure that it doesn't gap. Then I took some thin strips of fabric and made them into tubes for the straps, and one thicker one to make into a bow. And turning the straps inside out was a struggle, but I used the safety pin trick and it worked. It just took forever. Now here's the straps pinned into place, and I decided to cut them in the back. I didn't show it on camera, and there's the bow. Well, I know that was kind of fast-paced and chaotic and felt like I was losing my mind throughout the process of it, but, you know, that's really emulating how life is right now. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you go check out some of my other videos. I'm Art by LGO on Instagram, TikTok, Patreon. I have a page. I have one of those now. I also have a Venmo if you just want to send a little something my way to contribute to the projects. And I really hope that you come back again and visit, and I am slowly losing my mind. Bye.